Are you live?
Hi, welcome everyone to our first book club coming to you by my A3 Reset. Thank you all for joining. I know today is Saturday and we're all up, out and about. And I just want to just give everyone a big shout out and thank you for standing with me. Thank you to my friends and family who has consistently just been there motivating me. So let's get right to it. Aside from welcoming everyone, I am really, really thrilled. This book that we're going to start with, Take the Mask Off, The Truth About Character and Integrity. This book was birthed out of a 23-year relationship and just really how we can move through life, through this world, whether it's at work, whether it's with our families, whether it's in our marriage, relationship. And sometimes we never really take the mask off. We never take the opportunity to say who you truly are, or even show that to yourself, to your partner. We get so busy going through this life, showing up, and we never really just take a time to say, let me step back to say who I really am. So, welcome to everyone. I hope we have the chats open. We're still working through a few things, but we're just gonna move right along. I will share my screen so that everyone can see the first chapter that we're going to be reviewing for this book club. The book will be posted and uploaded on the My A3 Reset website later today. So it will be available for sale so that you can follow me along in the book every Saturday at 10. So, chapter one, we just really get into setting like the tone, and we meet the representative. And what you all know is that I feel like we all have a representative. We've all put forth that representative. If you think about when you go to interview, you're going to put on your best suit. You're going to have that suit pressed, starched out, creased, everything. Your best shoes. You're going to get a fresh hairdo, fresh cut. We put that best person forward. But after that 90-day period, you start to see like that shift. How are you showing up? So that's just on your job. How are you really, really showing up in every aspect of your life? And this book actually ties into um, the oracle, where you can go in and you can do like a self-assessment just to see like each part of your life, how you're showing up, who you really are, what you really like to do, and your journey forward. So one quote that I really love is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellent then is not an act, but an habit. So, Aristotle. So, I really love quotes. I start quoting to myself like in 2013. I started with my power words, which I have talked about several times in my lives last week, this past Friday, and of course today. So, you will see throughout the book that we will have like quotes, we will have power words, we will have examples from like iconic people and how they have made the transition. So we'll kick off this book with a bold truth. And I'm reading from like two screens, and I will show you the screen with the book in just a moment. So we all wear a mask. And in the book, it's going to get into some deep case studies. One of my favorite people that I have looked at was Steve Jobs. And he inspired millions. He transformed the tech industry, but he also died young. He put forth like his representative. He was very brilliant. He was a visionary. He presented himself as Zen like. I can remember the black turtlenecks that he would wear, how he would approach situations. But behind the scenes, he was a totally different person. And maybe that was because he was starting up. Maybe that was because he was trying to transform the tech industry. And it takes grit, but in the midst of everything, we have to also remember to show up with our best person as well. So I'm not sure like if we can get participation, but I see that we do have some lives on, and I'm just gonna try to see if we can get um, some participation from the viewers that's on. Give me one moment. I'm gonna pull up the ebook. And I'm just gonna send it to a different screen. Or not, I'll just share it on this screen. It's not cooperating with me. So let me just share my screen. So this is the first chapter that we are going to discuss. And I'm going to try and set it so that we can have dual visions for this and for the live. So the representative, who we pretend to be versus who we really are. This book is going to really explore how we present ourselves, which is what we've already talked about. So getting into chapter 1, the mask that we wear. We are repeatedly what we do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. So not going through reading everything because I'm sure everyone can read, but we are in a world that is carefully like curated by our social media profiles, professional personas, and relationship masks. And we become experts at crafting like different versions of ourselves. And I would like to stop there to say, like, with us crafting these different versions of ourselves, how much of that do we really believe and how much of that is really true? So the first chapter introduced the concept of the representatives, that polished, often, idealized version of ourselves that we strategically present to the world. Not even the world like at large, but even like within our own communities, within our own relationships. We rarely let people get to know who we are. You can be 10 years in with someone and you still really don't know who they are. So understanding the representative, I would like to have feedback on this because I think this here can lead to some engaging conversations that we can go on throughout the week, just chatting about, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on any kind of Instagram chat. Let us just have like some kind of conversation around it. So do we all have one? In this book, I think we all have a representative. We all have a version that shows up, whether we're in that job interview, whether we are trying to meet someone for the first time. We all want to put that best foot forward. But how about if we just start taking a step back and say, I'm just going to show up, just truly authentically as who I really am, and just see if this person is just going to accept me for who I am, if this job would just give me an opportunity. I know my skills, I know my worth, I know that I can execute. But when you go in presenting that representative and you know that you can't hold that representative over for the duration of the job or the relationship, that's when things start happening. And no one asked us to present a representative. We actually, because of our culture, just naturally do that. So, is presenting that representative a lie, or is it just cultural acceptance? That's another question. So, there's a significant gap between that representative and actually who we really are. So I looked at a case study and I talked a little bit about Steve Jobs. And I really love seeing like Steve Jobs, like the Kobe Bryants, Warren Buffett. I really like to study iconic leaders, iconic people who have transitioned or transformed or revolutionized like industries like sports, tech, whatever. I really love studying them, not to find fault, but just to understand like how they really thought and operated. And so in the book, you will find like case studies, and this case study breaks down Steve Jobs. I am not going to go into details about the case study today. I would just encourage you to get the book so that you can see a difference, because sometimes we develop this idea in our heads like, this is what a leader should be. This is what a wife should be. This is what a husband should be. This is how I should show up as a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Or we go on Instagram and TikTok and we look at these short clips about people saying, like, this is how you should position yourself. If you're a girlfriend, you shouldn't act like, like a wife, or whatever the case may be. I think we have like a lot of information coming at us, and we have gotten away from like our true foundational um, relationships that we learn, that were passed down from one generation to the next, from families, from grandmothers, grandfathers, or just really seeing a family structure. Not to say that that is right and this is wrong, but I think that we need to really evaluate what we absorb and then what we present out in every aspect of our lives, because sometimes we may see the surface of what's going on because it's at social media, but is that truly like the true nature of how you should conduct yourself? And then you have to ask yourself, what is the situation in your life? Who are the people in your life, and how do you navigate that and handle those situations? So I think we are creating like a generation of people that just really don't have all the information, that don't really have a foundation to actually stand to know like, this is who I need to show up as my true, most authentic self. So moving past the Steve Jobs case study, we want to talk about image crafting. So image crafting and self-deception. Like, I never knew that there was a word called image crafting until I started doing research to write this book. And I found out a lot writing this book because I never knew or understood, especially being in like a 23-year relationship, that there was something called like gaslighting or breadcrumbing. So I get into all of those terms and concepts and behaviors in this book. But image crafting goes beyond, like a simple impression management. In this book, I'm explaining like how it goes to like the extreme form of self-deception. So we began to believe our own narrative. And so that's what I have been talking about, like from the beginning, like how much of this, of the representative, do you really start believing? And then when you start believing that, how much of yourself do you really lose in this process? And what is it going to take for you to regain your true center and really understand who you are? So let's look at some things that image crafting and self-deception leads to. So I try to break it down and keep it simple and just two, three, four statements, not trying to list a whole bucket list of things because, let's just start simple. So selective memories, recalling past events in a way that flatters our own image. Can we be real about our childhood? Can we be real about when we had a hard time on our jobs? Can we be real about how we had to navigate situations? Or do we always want to walk in and just be considered, like untouchable? But what does untouchable really means? And how do you present yourself to the world, to your family, to your company, to your colleagues, if you're untouchable? But you have selective memories and you build this story, and that's the story that you tell. You start telling this story to everyone. So rationalization, creating reasonable sounding justifications for questionable behavior. I mean, that's a big one to me because you can see it in relationships, and you can see like how individuals try to navigate. And what we don't realize is that how we present ourselves in all scenarios of our life, all things are one, meaning that wherever you go, there you are. So if you carry this behavior with you in your personal life, you're going to express that same behavior on your job. It's going to be expressed with your friends. It's going to be expressed with your family. You're just going to always have some kind of justification for how you are. Moral licensing. So what does that mean? Like some of these things were like new to me, and I was just like really taken aback because I could see some of these things throughout my life, but I never understood like what these things really meant, or I never had a word for it. So now I can put a word with a behavior. So it's using positive action in one area to justify negative actions in another area. How many of us know someone that does that? But just put the mirror in our face. How many times have we done this and we found that to be acceptable, or we've let it slide just because we're just like, oh, well, I do something over here, but over here, I'm going to justify this because maybe you've asked a couple of times, maybe you have been trying to navigate a situation, but does it justify? So I'm very, like I said, excited about this because I'm really learning as I have gone through this book. And the fourth one I said was confirmation bias, seeking information that supports our preference, our self-view. So there was a quote that we would use in the industry because we would see like some leaders or people, they would get their little group or entourage, and it would be like, just because all dogs are barking up the wrong tree, it doesn't make it the right tree. So just because you continue to tell a story, and even though the story is not true and your image crafting is not going to make it the truth. And we have been okay with saying, well, that's my truth, or let's agree to disagree. So we all have to be responsible for who we are and how we want to show up in this world. We all have to be responsible for like our life choices, our family, and how this here can really dictate like how our kids move, how our next generation is moving. This here can be the foundation for setting a legacy of integrity and honesty within yourself, but also in your generations to come. Because of all things, when you stand You want to stand on your word. You want to stand and know that beyond all of the smoke, once it settles, I'm going to have my word. I'm going to have my integrity. And I'm going to know, like, whatever it is that I stand for, it is going to stand because I built it on, a righteous integrity. And I've led with that integrity. So letting your yes be yes and your no be no. And whatever the case may be, accept what your past has been. And, you grow from that. Because I think we've all had a journey, we all have a story. Some stories can still make us cringe, even after 20 something years, it can make us cringe, but it didn't destroy us. And we have to look at the blessings in those stories. Sometimes we probably wanted to be in the in group, or we probably wanted to be a A-lister, or we're probably wanting to be whatever it is that we saw that looked great. But that illusion, is it really as great as you think it is? And then what part of yourself are you going to have to give up or sell out in order to fit in? Sometimes we are protected from entering into lifestyles or entering into deals or deals with the devil that we really shouldn't be entering into. Sometimes we can make decisions and we think that we want to really be a part of a certain group or a society, and that is just not part of our life journey. So we have to really get back to the root cause, or the root of understanding who we are. And so on the Alchemy3 website, my A3 reset, the Oracle is coming and it should be ready. Hopefully, like by next week. If not, we'll give it another week because I am not going to release without it being really ready and validated. So on the website, there is the Oracle. And within the Oracle, there is the self-assessment. And this tool really helps you to look at all aspects of your life so that you can really start understanding who you are. You can go through life and you can hit 50, you can hit 60, you can be whatever age, and you still do not know who you are because you have been a pawn in this life. And so you got to understand, like, are you going to position yourself as a pawn just so that you can show up and be in someone's grace, or to be in some society or organization, or just be around a group of people? Or do you want to stand in your truth and know your purpose in your life journey, and really understand, like, what is it that I like, not what is it that someone else needs from me in order to fulfill their likes, not necessarily their purpose, but just to feel their likes or what they want at the moment. Because I'm sure if you are dealing with organizations, or if you're dealing with people who don't know who they are or their life purpose, or they just are taken by the wind, like this excites them today and next year is something else, but all they know is that I look at TV, I listen to music, it sounds good, these people had great quotes, I can repeat every quote, I want to position my life like whatever star there is and whoever is resonating with me. But that's not real life, that's a song. Yes, you can use music to motivate you. You can look at movies to inspire you, but those movies are probably created or filmed 2 years before they come out. And the people that are in the movies, those are characters. They're not the people who are filming the movies. The actual people that are filming the movies are probably living a totally different life than the character that is on the screen. It sounds good. The storyline is great. I mean, the movies have made millions, probably billions, but that is not real life. And we have to separate real life from the characters that we see on screen, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, whether it is on the big screen. We have to in music, because when you go home, when those actors go home and actresses go home, they have their own life that they're trying to live and navigate. And they are trying to also make sure that they're finding their center so that they can live their best life and build their legacy for their people. So if you are really committed to saying, who are you? What kind of life you want to have, building that legacy, or even just doing the assessment to say, where am I today? What do I like? And where am I trying to go? I just encourage you to go to the My A3 Reset and click on the Oracle, go into the self assessment, and really get started. It's a combination of, like, you may have to take like 5 different assessments, but for ours is very comprehensive. You go in, you take the assessment, and you proceed forward from there to understanding who you are, first of all, what kind of work you like, because it's going to ask you to drop in your resume. It is going to ask you to drop in a professional resume. It's going to ask you to drop in a personal resume. For relationships, is going to ask you to give your birth information, so that it can really curate like who you really are, what you like, what you're trying to do, and where you're trying to go. Like, what is your purpose? What is your life journey? So I'm gonna stop sharing this particular screen, and then we can get ready to like end this session. But I'm like super excited. This is the first kickoff for this, and I'm really looking forward to what is to come. So thank you all for joining the podcast today, the live viewing today. And we will meet back up next Saturday at 10. And hopefully I will have like a different location, because I really went to enjoy the North Carolina weather. So I wanted to be outside, but some areas were restricted today. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you next Saturday at 10